Good morning from California. This is Dr. Evelyn Mosley, DC, and I am coming a little early today with my. All right, so good morning. This is Dr. Evelyn, and I am starting a little early with my mind body moment for the day. It's just a scheduling mishap, but I hope that you guys catch this and that you see it. If you haven't seen my last mind body moment, the point of these is to, sorry, my husband's just going to get some coffee, working from home. Um, the point of these mind body moments is to give you a minute to take some more knowledge about what's going on physiologically with your body that contributes to stress and what kinds of things we can think about in different ways to help us find that inner peace, find that stress, help our mind and our body work together as one system that they truly are, and to just give you more tools that might be physical or physiological tools to help manage how we're feeling that you might not have utilized before. So let's go ahead and just get started for the day. Take a nice deep breath and exhale for twice as long. Just think about where your jaw is and let your jaw relax. This is a really common place for tension. One thing you can do is say like A, E, I, O, U really dramatically to help your jaw just kind of relax. Also, sitting up and back just automatically makes your jaw relax. The more double chinned you are, the less tension that's happening right here. All right, so we're going to start this one session just going really kind of into the physiology, and then we're going to do a fun exercise afterwards just to help kind of put this into practice, so to speak, and just help you feel less stressed and ready to keep going with your day. All right, so first thing that is the most basic thing to know when it comes to our body's response to stress is that when we experience what is called like a negative stress or distress, it is because the demand that we are perceiving in a situation is we are perceiving that it is greater than whatever resources that we have available to us. So, for example, a financial stress might be I have bills to pay, but I don't feel like I have enough money to pay them, right? The demand is greater than the resources. And when this happens to us in a more like fight or flight kind of way, the saber-toothed tiger that is staring at me, I don't know if I'm strong enough or fast enough to get out of this situation alive, right? That's a very primitive version of this. The demand that is in front of us seems to be exceeding what resources that we have, okay? So one thing I want you to really focus on here is that it's a sense or a perception that the demand of the situation is greater than the resources that we have. So it's not necessarily always reality, but it feels that way. And that's what gives us an actual physiological response, right? We know that our emotions and that our feelings have physiological responses that go along with them, right? If you get embarrassed, your cheeks turn red. When you do get that, someone cuts you off on the road, maybe sweat kind of comes out of your armpits. So all kinds of examples of that, sexually, whatever it may be, we know that our feelings tend to have physiological reactions. Okay. So we've started with this basic premise that an increased demand with a feeling like there's not enough resources leads to this feeling of distress, or negative stress. And once we get into a stress response, then a few other things start to happen to us physically, right? One of those things is that we go into sympathetic mode and we shut off our parasympathetic mode. So I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but you may have heard it more in the terms of we go into fight or flight and we are no longer in our rest and digest nervous system, right? This is an autonomic nervous system function. This is something that our bodies do automatically, autonomically. So in sympathetic, the goal is to increase tension, get all the blood pumping to our muscles so that we can either fight or run away. Increase the adrenal response and send norepinephrine all over our body, right? Like getting really strong, increasing blood flow and demand to our extremities and leaving our central organs, right? Then another one that a lot of people don't think about is that we go into our amygdala, which is a different part of our brain. That's our hindbrain. So blood shunts off from our prefrontal cortex and it goes into this reptile primitive brain, because that primitive brain is really fast at making decisions. And when you're in survival mode, it just wants you to decide quickly. It doesn't really care what you decide. It just wants you to decide quickly. So that's the survival technique. Now, the downside of that, in a real life survival situation, there is no downside to this, right? That's great. We need that to survive. That's how human beings have gotten to where we are today, right? We know how to survive. So the other side of that is that the parasympathetic then begins to, it shuts down, right? That's the other half of this, the rest and digest part. It makes no sense to be trying to spend your energy digesting a meal when you are face to face with something that is life-threatening, right? So, but the parasympathetic is all about healing and digesting and processing and recovering and balancing and our immune system and things like that that we really associate with health. And the truth is we're supposed to be in this system most of the time. Okay, so the two things that have happened so far, now that we have our stress reaction, is that we've switched from sympathetic and that fight or flight, and now we've turned off our parasympathetic, right? Another thing that happens is our belief systems can become affected, okay? So if we are in a stress mode, we might then start to think, okay, the worst is happening. I need to be prepared for the worst to be happening. You start to think about scarcity in your life. You are more focused on, look, I have this demand and I do not have enough resources, therefore there is not enough around me, and you may start to focus on the scarcity that is happening. You start to have repetitive thoughts because you are not really able to use your critical mind, so you're using only a limited part of your brain. And so you're unable to kind of utilize the full capability of your prefrontal cortex in order to think about something in a different way or gain a new perspective or be open to another point of view. And you really are you're fearing for your life and you're sort of just looking out for number one. And this is when we kind of have those selfish behaviors where we really can't see the bigger picture, or we really might not be able to see that someone's trying to help us because we just got to get through this situation, and as long as we're okay, we'll figure out the rest of our relationships later, right? And then of course, just a kind of a arc term for the things that I just discussed is irrational thoughts. When we are using our amygdala and we're not accessing our prefrontal cortex, we can't have rational thoughts. because the rational thinking part of our brain is, in fact, our prefrontal cortex. So we are really utilizing our reptilian hindbrain, and that can cause some issues. Okay, so I said all that to say, and I will post a diagram that I drew out about this so that you can keep track of kind of everything I'm talking about. But to recap, stress is caused by when there's a perception that the demand is too great for our resources. That leads to stress. And then with stress, we get an increase in sympathetic and a decrease in the parasympathetic. They go hand in hand. Also, with stress, we start to notice belief system patterns of scarcity, of fear, of looking out for number one, not really being able to rationalize thoughts and see the bigger picture, okay? The good news is, now that we know that, there's so many ways that we can attack stress from a biological and mental emotional standpoint, right? The first thing we can do is perceive that the demand is not really as great as we might have thought before, right? We can change how we perceive the demands that are on our lives. And we can do things behaviorally to change how much demand we're feeling, right? A lot of our demands come from what our priorities are. What are our social pressures? What are, what are the things that we think that we really have to do that is part of just our personality or our persona. For example, I am a type of person that really feels a lot of my own internal value on performance and productivity. And it's been a journey for me to realize that no one else is expecting me to do that. I can let myself take breaks and I can let myself have a lazy day, and that's okay. The demands that I'm sensing and perceiving in my environment are completely made up by myself, and that's good for me to know and work on, right? So the other half of that is that we can increase our resourcefulness, right? And increase our resources. Like I talked about in the first talk, this whole innate intelligence aspect, we have so much capability innately to adapt and to grow and to live. I mean, we've seen human beings doing the most amazing things, right? Human beings are so versatile. We can really train ourselves to do almost anything. And that's so awesome. A lot of times it's important to remember that we have a lot more resources than we realize, and it's about becoming resourceful to being able to tap into these resources that are already at our disposal, right? So that's about being adaptable. That's being creative. That is, that's a very big part of chiropractic. We really want to help people's nervous systems be adaptable so that they can be really healthy. Okay, so that's just the start of it, man. I hope you're following along. So the next part, increase our parasympathetic, right? Well, we kind of have to first shut down our sympathetic, right? And that's all this beautiful work of, calming oneself. So as we turn down the sympathetic, we are automatically ramping up the parasympathetic. But if it helps you to think about them in different ways, that's cool too. So decreasing that sympathetic, we're going to be meditating. We're going to breathe. Maybe some tapping. We're going to go for a run. We're going to, whatever it is that gets you out of that chronic stress response, that's why you do it, right? So that you can biohack and not have that stress anymore. And increasing the parasympathetic, this would be like digestive support, proper diet, resting, making sure you have adequate rest and recovery time, making sure that you're giving time to yourself to unwind at the end of the day or even in the middle of the day, depending on when you experience the most feelings of high demand and not enough resources. Laughing, exercise, these are things that stimulate, vagus nerve activity and help. I've just been kind of diving in and been working with hypnosis techniques, and those are super, into hacking into that parasympathetic system, which has really been awesome. So you can find all kinds of ways to help support your parasympathetic, your rest and digest, and help decrease your sympathetic fight or flight response, right? The beauty of this here is that the more that we practice shifting out of sympathetic, because right, like I said earlier, sympathetic response is not a bad response. A sympathetic response only ends up causing problems when it's a chronic response, when it's something that we try to persist for a very long time. It is meant to be an immediate and quick response under immediate danger. But these days we're seeing that it is persisting into days, into weeks, into years. And our bodies are just simply not designed to stay in that state for as long as we are staying in it these days. So it's really important that we practice teaching our nervous system how to shift back into parasympathetic so we just don't get stuck in that state. All right. And then, of course, the last one is helping alter our belief systems, especially when we're in a state of stress. So like I talked about before, when you are in a mindset of scarcity because you think that you don't have enough resources, great practices for this: abundance and gratitude. Like I said before, when you're prepared for the worst, so you're having anxiety and you're having these circulating thoughts, being able to do something creative really can help disrupt that pattern, or making yourself look at something from a different point of view. That's why it helps to talk to a friend or a therapist or anyone, is because we can get stuck in this cyclical thinking of only the worst being possible, and we actually need something to snap us out of it and kind of start to utilize that frontal brain again, right? Playing, okay? This is again with creativity, but how many of us as adults play? I don't know. I've been trying to think about that more. And not just structured board games, but play like kids play, where there are no really rules to the game. It's imaginative. It's bringing different aspects of different worlds together, right? And then, of course, introspection. Taking a beat to say, how am I doing? Am I really handling this the way I want to handle this? Is this really real? Is this what I want to be real? Etc. Okay, so I really hope that kind of like laid a structure for why all of the amazing resources on this platform are so awesome, because things like they all are just kind of attacking this stress response from all these different angles. And again, I will post the diagram here on the page so you all can see it too. So let's do a quick exercise just to finish up this mind-body moment. If you have a piece of paper and a pen, then that's great. If you are just, want to think about it in your head, that's totally great too. But I want you to think for a second, just calm. And I want you to think about your alter ego. Okay, so we're going to play pretend right now. We're going to use our imaginations. We're going to pretend we're kids, like we're 5. And we are being whatever princess, whatever superhero, whatever, cool person that we can possibly imagine or visualize. So, a couple questions to get you started. You can think about like, where does this alter ego of mine live? What does this alter ego of mine do? What is my superpower? Every creative childhood uh, person has a special power, right? Like I can talk to animals, or, I'm super strong, or whatever it is. Those are fascinating to us, those special qualities. So give one to yourself. Um, some other questions you can think about are, how do I look? How do I enter a room? What do other people see me as, right? Are people excited? Are they grateful when I show up to a crime scene? Or, do people come to seek me for advice? Or whatever whatever the persona and alter ego might be for you. And then I want you to also add a few specifics from this exercise, right? What resources does this alter ego have on their disposal, right? What would be the kind of challenges that this alter ego faces? You know, if we think about our alter ego being able to stop, asteroids from hitting the earth or something like that, then in our real lives we can bring that in and be like, this is not an asteroid. Whatever this thing I'm being asked to do at work, this is not an asteroid about to destroy all of Earth. And if I can handle that, I can sure handle this. I'm not kidding. Bring play into your life um, and just utilize it. And utilize it. It's such an easy way to change your brain waves and really learn and get past old patterns of thinking. Um, and then, you can go into like, how does my alter ego, what are their belief systems, right? Um, how are their morals? What are they out and about doing, right? This person is, I just think of like all the superheroes, all the princesses, they have this great posture. None of them are cowering or tense or in that stress response, right? They're like strong and upright and gleaming. And it helps to envision yourself like that sometimes, especially in the tough moments. And I can also help you remember what it is to be a person that is in their parasympathetic, in their healthy state, utilizing their whole mind, and really living the belief systems that come with being in their rational mind. If you have any questions about how chiropractic specifically can help you with this process and why, as a chiropractor, I am talking about this, please message me. I would love to answer those kinds of questions and help you find someone great in your area to help you with addressing your nervous system and helping you create balance and shift in that system. Okay, guys, thanks again for bearing with me as I changed, as scheduling things came up and I'm on a little bit earlier than my normal mind body moment for this week. I hope this was valuable to you. I hope that you are all doing what it takes to get through this together. Take care.